What's up, everybody? My name's Parasite. Welcome back to the Jose Mourinho Challenge with Chelsea. Today we've got the season review for what has been a tremendous season with Chelsea as we went unbeaten in the Premier League. We also won the Champions League and the FA Cup. 4 trophies, not 4 easy ones to get. 3 of them a little bit more important than the 4th. The Super Cups, whatever, nice to win, but I'm more worried about the other 3. The FA Cup, the Champions League, and the Premier League. And the fact we did it unbeaten in the Premier League is just next level. And a lot of that was thanks to some new arrivals. We already had a pretty strong squad to begin with, but there were areas where we definitely needed depth. And those are the main 2 ones in terms of the new players we brought in. Mark Rutten at left back. We really only had Matteo Ruggeri. Didn't have much beyond him. And then Mark Rutten came in and eventually took over the job from Ruggeri because he was pretty tremendous, especially there late in the season. He was our go-to left back and he never really let us down. It was a big fee, $80 million, but he's only 24 years old. From Dortmund, he's just a very good player. 7.2 average rating. 4 assists isn't a lot, but I mean, he's really good defensively as well. That's what we're mostly looking for from our fullbacks. We have plenty of attacking players, but we did need one more attacking player. On the wings, we never really had that third guy. We had 2 pretty good starters with Pino, who is just tremendous, and Havertz, who a little inconsistent, had a pretty poor season this year, but behind him, we had Sterling, who's getting up there and never really performed, and Zvonarek, who never really performed on the wings either. We needed another guy, so we spent big to bring in Gabriel Vidovic. But also, he's not that old either. Like Mark Rutten, he's 28, so he's not in his 30s. Still got plenty of years left at the top of his game. 108 million is a lot of money, but I think he backed it up. For what we needed from that player, I think he provided all of that as a goal scorer and as a creator. 12 goals, 11 assists. One of our most balanced attacking players this season. Our third and final major signing was more of a replacement, not a position of need per se, but we needed to replace Gavi. We had sold him for big money to PSG. We need somebody to step in that could play pretty much the exact same role, and that was Guilherme Santos. And I thought he was pretty good for us as well. 5 goals, 5 assists, playing a multitude of roles for us, from advanced playmaker whenever we played that, to the center on attack. Playing some at right wing as well, which he did pretty well to end the season, but he was a pretty solid player for us. He's still pretty young as well. As you can see kind of a theme here. No one over the age of 30, 27-year-old. He's tremendous as well, known from his time in Sporting, and I thought he was solid for us, replacing Gavi, who just never really performed for us. And then the final one is just a youngster for the future, Yarne Schurz. I wanted a third left back, and we didn't have a spot to register him. So they had to be under 21, and they had to be good enough to be able to start if we needed to. And fortunately, we didn't end up needing him, but if we did, I think he would have been able to step in and do a good job, because his attributes are still very good for a 19-year-old, very good young left back for the future. In terms of transfers out, we didn't do many major deals outside of Gavi, but $130 million for Gavi. And like, he is still young as well, 27, but he just never played that well for us. And so to get that kind of money and replace him with a guy who had similar production for us, I thought was good business. Gavi did have an amazing season with PSG, 7.5 rating, 7 goals, 16 assists, but he played the exact same role and position that he played for us, but he's in the French league. A little bit of difference there in competition between the Premier League and Ligue 1. And I think that mostly bloats his numbers. He was never good in the Premier League. He was never special in the Premier League. And if you get $130 million for a player that's not special, I will take that every day. Really, the only other sale was Sergio Reguilon. Brought him in for a relatively affordable deal to be our backup left back. He never played well for us. I wanted him to play the similar kind of roles Lucas Dean did for us at Sporting. Dean was pretty good for us. Reguilon, not as much. So we cut him loose, $5.5 million to Sociedad. Had an okay season with them, 5 assists. But he's 35 years old now, and his physicals are pretty much shot. So I think we got rid of him at the right time. In terms of loans out, we had a couple first-team caliber players here as well. The best of which being James Boothby, 24 years old, came through the youth academy. He was loaned out to Hoffenheim this year and had a very good season in the Bundesliga. 4 goals, 5 assists, playing from midfield. And he's got the attributes to play in this team. Maybe not as a starter. We don't really need him as a starter, but as a depth piece, he could definitely find a role in this team, but is there a spot for him? That's for to be seen in the future. Behind him, we've got one of our best young players, which is Sean Taylor, 19 years old. Was on loan in the championship to Crystal Palace. Didn't play a whole lot for them, didn't play exceptionally well, but he's still young. His attributes are pretty good, especially his pace. So he's still got a bright future. Behind him, not much else. Some older players in terms of being youngsters, 23, 22, that don't think I have much future. Barry Kendrick, who probably would replace Raheem Sterling, who's leaving on a free. Kendrick's going to come in and probably play that similar role as a depth winger, could play striker as well. Didn't have a very good season in the Premier League for Norwich, but as a depth piece, his attributes are there. He's homegrown a club, and his wages a little higher than I'd like, 180, which is why I loaned him out, but he could definitely fill that role, and we don't have a bunch of homegrown at club players. Now moving on to the season results, we were in a lot of competitions, and we did well in almost all of them. Premier League, obviously, we won. They wanted us to challenge. We won it, and we did it without losing. Just absolutely ridiculous. Just a tremendous season. Just no red. I love seeing no red on a Premier League table. Champions League, they want us to reach the final. We did. And then we also won it over Arsenal in extra time. Mike Fromm with the winning goal. Bruno Thiago led the competition for us in terms of goals with 9. And we also didn't, well, I guess we did lose. It's showing them as wins. The game against Liverpool lost 1-0, but we won over aggregate. Same against Bayern Munich. So didn't quite go unbeaten in the Champions League, but still came pretty close. The Super Cup, we also won that over Bayern Munich. The FA Cup, also won that over Liverpool. Had a pretty good run there as well. Not a lot of hard teams in the knockouts. Obviously, you get Tottenham early on. Kind of stunk, but outside of that, pretty relatively comfortable run in. But then Liverpool's never easy. Carabao Cup didn't do as well as I'd like. Obviously, not super important, but I wanted to win it as well. We lost to Liverpool because we lost 4-0 in the first leg, when it shouldn't have been a 4-0 game. We won 3-2 in the return leg, but it wasn't enough. But if we're going to lose out in any competition, that'd be one of the ones to lose out on. Did a little bit of rotation for it as well. And the Community Shield, we lost to Manchester City on penalties. Our biggest win was a 6-0 win over Shakhtar in the Champions League. I mean, I'm pretty sure there are multitude of results kind of like that over the season, and that might be one of the better ones, being in the Champions League. But we had some pretty good wins against good teams as well. I'm thinking of one against Liverpool where we absolutely blew them out. I think it was a 5-1 win. They are our match to remember. Our 2-1 win over them. They had a sending off. We scored 2 goals, Yeremy Pino, and then Holland made it a little bit nervy at the end, but we still got the win. It's an important one because Liverpool finished second, and it kept our unbeaten run alive. Then finally, goal of the season goes to Yeremy Pino for his 88th minute goal against Villarreal. Let's see this. Actually, wrong button. This one. Let's see this goal. Is it worthy of goal of the season? Usually they're not. Can I click this now? Used to be able to click it. Some people still can. I cannot. So we'll just go to watch the goals. All right, I think this is the Yeremy Pino goal. So he brings it down, finds Bruno Thiago, back to Camavinga from Yeremy Pino, edge of the area. I mean, it's a very good finish. It's a very good finish, edge of the area. We've had better. When it comes to finances, obviously with how far we went in all the cups, how we did in every single competition, pretty good year for us financially. Also in terms of reputation, as we went from a 4.5-star club to a full 5-star club, one of the best in the world. In terms of shirt sales, Bruno Thiago tops the list, followed by Mariba, Mason Mount, Yeremy Pino, and Camavinga. Kind of surprised Mount's in there. Obviously, he's been in the club for a very long time, one of the leaders, one of the captains. But so is Reece James, and he played a lot better than Mason Mount this season. In terms of how he lined up, our usual 4-3-3. Bruno Thiago up top, Yeremy Pino on the left, 2 of our best players. Vidovic on the right, Kai Havertz. Really bad season. Really bad season. For a team that went unbeaten, he definitely should have done a lot better. Vidovic stepped in and had some good games as well. In the midfields, Mike Fromm and Elias Mariba. Mariba, the mainstay throughout the entire season. That second spot was kind of always bounced around. Mason Mount to start the season didn't really play well. Eventually we found Mike Fromm, who had a really good goal-scoring season from midfield until he fell off a little bit at the end, and then Zvonarek came in there and absolutely tore it up. Camavinga in that holding role, he has been, I mean, average rating-wise, one of the lowest in the teams, but that role, that position, just almost never gets a good average rating. To get a 7.11 playing as a defensive midfielder, that's still really good. Camavinga is a tremendous player. Backline, Rudin gets in there at left back. Mancini gets in there over Cerezo at center back. He's obviously been a really good third center back for us. He's going to be leaving at the end of the season. And in terms of, I think it's okay. His strength's starting to fall off. Still got some decent pace. I would prefer to have kept him, but he wasn't interested in signing a new deal, so we've had to replace him. He's been really good for us, as has Chile, who's been just absolutely tremendous. Reece James at right back, obviously Horazo and Ned, who's had one of the best seasons in the Premier League for a goalkeeper of all time. Now moving on to the accolades. The fans' player of the season was Yeremy Pino, as it should be. He's probably the best player in the team in terms of creative and can score goals. He does literally everything for this team. Jimmy Wong does get young player of the season, though, which is a little bit of a surprise. I mean, I think Bruno Thiago is too old there at 25. I think 24 is the cutoff. But Giovanni Horazo is also 24, and he's the best goalkeeper in the world. He should probably be the young player of the season over a backup right back. Signing of the season, they give it to Guilherme Santos, another surprise. I mean, I would probably give it to Vidovic. Rudin also definitely can deserve it as well. He's come in to be a starting left back. But for what he brought to us, the goals and assists, Vidovic definitely made a bigger impact than Guilherme Santos did. Goal of the season, obviously Yeremy Pino, top goal scorer. Thiago with 37 in all competitions. Yeremy Pino, once again, leading us in assists with 21. Also in man of the matches with 9. Highest average rating, 7.6. In terms of records, Bruno Thiago with his 37 goals sets the most overall goal record. Yeremy Pino sets the assist record. Giovanni Herrazzo sets the clean sheet record for 34 clean sheets. Absolutely insane. Bruno Thiago also gets 9 man of the matches. And then the transfer fee, $130 million for Gavi. I think how good this season has been cannot be understated. One of, if not the best club season ever. And it's not really close. Unbeaten, Champions League, FA Cup. In terms of the Golden Boot for the Champions League, Erling Haaland unsurprisingly wins it. He's been absolutely absurd this season. But only one more goal than Bruno Thiago, who finishes second. Goal of the tournament, Yeremy Pino there in third with his goal against Villarreal. Dream team, we have our entire back line. Reece James, Cerezo, Badiashile, Rudin. And then Bruno Thiago. And Mike Fromm gets in there. Surprised Yeremy Pino isn't in there. That seems like a glaring omission. In terms of the award winners, Herrazzo wins goalkeeper of the season. I'm assuming he was in there as well. No, Ramsdale. Explain that. Goalkeeper of the season, but not in the dream team. Doesn't make sense to me. Defender of the season, Badiashile, followed by Cerezo, followed by Reece James. Midfielder of the season, Pino, but not in the dream team. Maybe it's position, because like playing wide midfielders, but Pino can't also play there. I don't understand it. Mariba third, over Mike Fromm, who's in there. And, yeah, don't understand that either. Forward of the season is Bruno Thiago over Erling Haaland. That's a little surprising. Next up, we're going to take a quick look through all the analytics and stats. I'm just going to fly by on some of these team stats. Obviously, we're going to be leaving Chelsea. So, as a team, not the most important. But we do want to see how good the players did, because some of them might leave with us. We started off looking at the XG table. We dominated that like we dominated the league. We fully deserve to win this league out of cancer. Offensively, we didn't quite match our expected goals, but defensively, we were even better than we should have. And we should have still been really good. If we look at some of these other things like goal output, obviously just leagues above everyone else. Attacking efficiency up there as well. Shooting, in terms of high quality, not the best, but we shot a lot. Same thing to see for the scoring. Crossing, we are, again, head and shoulders above everyone else in terms of cross completion. That's good to see. Passing, kind of middle of the pack. Dribbling, in the right area. Possession, we're also kind of the only team in the green spot where we don't lose it a lot, and we win it back quite a bit for a team that, usually holds on to the ball more often than some team like Brentford. What else we got? Efficiency, this is where it gets crazy. Defensively, it's like we're playing a different sport. Just conversion rate, 5%. The next lowest is almost 10. Shots faced, like 7. 7 shots faced a game. Tackling, but it's not just the goalkeeping. It's the defenders as well. Tackling, the best tackles won ratio. Aerially, the best headers won ratio. We've got a full team in terms of our defense, and they have been absolutely insane. Now looking at the player analytics, starting with the goalkeepers. I mean, Herrazzo's had the greatest Premier League goalkeeping season of all time, right? I have never in my life seen a save percentage in the Premier League at 88%. That is stupid. Especially considering it feels like every single time they had the first shot of the game, it always went in. But he still had an 88% save percentage, with only facing 7 shots a game. Crazy. Second was Jared Ferguson, who might not have been able to play the whole season. I don't even know who that is. And then Andre Onana around 80%. That is significant. But it's not just the normal saves. He also had the most expected goals prevented by a margin as well. Kelleher second around 9. He's about 13 or 14 expected goals prevented on the season, while also facing the least shots and conceding the least goals. We now move on to the defenders. Most of these are kind of middle of the pack, but Reece James definitely stands out in terms of the tackles attempted per 90 and his tackles won ratio above the team. He wasn't as good going forwards as I'd like, which is kind of similar thing that happened last year, but he's been a very good defensive right back. In terms of aerially, well, we've been very good. Badiashile, the pretty dang good headers won ratio for how many attempted especially. Cerezo and Mancini really close to each other, which is kind of surprising because Mancini's a monster in the air and Cerezo still good in the air, but not quite as much. He's only 6 foot tall. But I think for his height, he's still done a really good job aerially. What else is important? Passing. I mean, all of our center backs kind of in the area you want them to be. Don't want the center backs losing the ball. We're playing on a defense. Fullbacks to be a little bit more adventurous as they get further forward of the pitch. Assisting. Jimmy Wong actually the most assists per 90. Didn't get a lot from our fullbacks going forward, I don't think, but they did a good job of retaining possession and obviously being defensive presences. Mark Rudin, the most creative of our fullbacks this year. Crossing, again, not anything too special there. Kind of in among the pack. Decent positions, though, especially for Mark Rudin there in cross completion. And then movement, Jimmy Wong also most in dribbles per 90. but he also lost the ball quite a bit, which is obviously not what you'd like, but surprised to see him that high, especially because I don't think he played that much, but I guess maybe that's kind of inflating his stats. Now moving on to the midfielders. Again, our defensive midfielders are where you'd want them to be. If you lose the ball, you want to do it as high on the pitch as possible. So you don't want your defensive midfielders, your center backs, to be losing the ball, and that's exactly what we've gotten from him. Kessie losing it a little bit less than Camavinga, but he's also less creative, so he's not attempting as many key passes. In terms of assisting, Guilherme Santos actually leads the team in key passes per 90. It's pretty dang high. Mason Mount also in a decent spot. A lot more creator this year than goal scorer, which is not really what I'm looking to get from him. Mourinho really is more creative, and he's actually had less key passes, but he had more assists per 90. But he's also been a much better goal scorer this year than Mason Mount. Looking at the tackling, Camavinga leads the team around 86% tackles-won ratio, which he should have. He's very good defensively. Kessie also good defensively, but he's quite a bit lower. But just like Camavinga is a little bit more aggressive with his passing, Franck Kessie is a little bit more aggressive with his tackling. So that's going to kind of account for the lower tackles-won ratio. Shooting, we definitely wanted more goals from our midfielders this year, especially because our front three probably didn't score enough, especially on the wings. We got a little bit of it from the midfield, mostly Mike Fromm, who was pretty tremendous this season. Guilherme Santos, though, and Alex Muriba all in a pretty good spot. Mason Mount, again, just not enough as a goal scorer. In terms of actually scoring the goals, Mike Fromm head and shoulders above everyone else. Guilherme Santos and Muriba also right there, but Mason Mount far too low. Now moving on to the forwards, starting with the shooting. Lavros Vonorek right up there with Bruno Thiago. Wonder how much his end of the season playing from the midfield affected that. I'm assuming it put him up pretty high because I don't really feel like he did much from the wings for the majority of the year. But again, our wide players, Vidovic up there, Kai Havertz. We don't see Yeremy Pino, which is confusing. Maybe he's just right in there as well. I'd assume that have to be the case. In terms of actually scoring, Bruno Thiago is really the only guy that scored consistently for us. You'd want to see some of these guys, some of our attackers in this area. Right now, it's only Sesko, the backup striker. Yeremy Pino, not enough of a goal scorer. He was really creative, though, so he's got that to his game, but I do feel like he should have scored more. And then Kai Havertz didn't really do anything this year. Up next, we've got aerial presence, which is, again, not really the strength of the team outside of Sesko, who I think was a little underwhelming for being 6'5". Kai Havertz did a good job, but he's got some good size on the wings. He should be able to bully fullbacks. Zonak surprisingly high as well. Goal output, that's where Bruno Thiago dominates in the goals, but Vidovic, I said before, he's kind of our most balanced attacker, and you can see it right there. In terms of assists and expected goals, he's second in both of them. Yeremy Pino, really creative. Goals, not quite there. And then Kai Havertz, wherever he is, I'm guessing right here, just didn't do a lot. Yeremy Pino might not have scored as many goals as we would have liked, but in terms of being a creative attacker, there's no better player in the Premier League. Nearly 7 key passes per 90. His assists per 90 really high as well. Vidovic, also in a pretty good spot. I'm pretty happy with his season. Being our second most creative attacker. Kai Havertz should be, but he's right here with Vonorek, and that's probably not good enough. In terms of crossing, Yeremy Pino once again crosses an ungodly amount. I've tried to get him to stop before, but I mean, it's working. And finally, in terms of movement, Yeremy Pino also loses the possession the most, but with his creative numbers, that's going to happen. Kai Havertz loses the ball way too much to not be getting more key passes or assists. Next up, we'll take a quick look through the Premier League stats. Starting with the team stats, which is not obviously as important, but we'll take a quick look through it. We finished with 51% possession. We started playing more of a possession style to start the season, and then we just weren't clinical enough in front of goal, so we need to create as many chances as we could, which is why we went more high-tempo style for the majority of the second half of the season, and obviously it worked. We went unbeaten. In terms of goals, we finished second behind Liverpool, who had, I mean, just absolutely led by Erling Haaland, had the greatest Premier League goal-scoring season ever. They get 89 goals on the season. We get 78. Still a pretty decent spot. We actually had more expected goals than Liverpool, though. Only slightly, but we had 82 expected, only scored 78, while they had 81 expected and scored 89. So they overperformed quite a bit. We underperformed a little bit. We did have 10 penalties on the season. We did put 9 of them away. So we've struggled with the penalty spot before with Chelsea and with Sporting. So it's good to see us have a decent season from the penalty spot this year. What else is important? I don't really care too much about cross completion. Obviously, it's nice, but it's not the be-all, end-all. Goals from corners, we tied for the most with Liverpool with 8. Direct free kicks, only one direct free kick. That's kind of surprising. As we scored a lot in the Cups or the Champions League, so I can almost remember 3 or 4 off the top of my head. Indirect free kicks, 2, a little low as well. What else? Pass completed, not too worried. Chances created, 4th, behind Aston Villa and Bristol City. Only slightly, but that's still kind of surprising. We had the most shots on target, best shots on target ratio, conversion rate. Yeah, I mean, that was our one issue. Conversion rate. But we just created enough chances that ultimately it didn't really matter. And we're just insane defensively. Let's just skip to that. Defensively, I mean, need I say more? 14 in 38 matches. The next lowest, 37. Arsenal and Manchester United. Liverpool, 48. That is why they weren't as good as they probably should have been. But only 14 goals in 38 matches in the Premier League is absolutely absurd. Our expected goals was 26. So just like Liverpool really outdid their expected goals for, we really outdid our expected goals against. But still, even if we got allowed 26 goals, it'd be a lot more than the second worst team, like your second best team. Just crazy season. Corners, we conceded 2. Direct free kicks, 0. Indirect free kicks, 2. Not bad. Clean sheets, 26. 11 more than Manchester United. Okay. Tackles, not too worried about that. Possession, nothing really. Okay. Penalties conceded. Didn't concede a single penalty all season long in the Premier League, and didn't give away a red card either. I like that. I like that a lot. That can sometimes be an issue. Let's look at attendances, sellouts. I mean, 8th, but 100% capacity. We might need to expand our stadium. We average less attendance than Everton and West Ham and Tottenham. Yeah, we need to expand the stadium. Net transfer spend, we were 3rd on the season. Newcastle, 251 million. Fulham in 2nd with 117, then us, but obviously it worked. We went unbeaten, so I don't think anyone can really say anything bad about our transfer business. In terms of salary, we're still not among the top. We're 4th place, but there's a definite top 3. Liverpool, City, United, all pretty close to each other. Then you got about a 60-70 million drop off to us, and then a 50 million drop off to Newcastle, and then you've got them, Tottenham, Arsenal. So we're definitely kind of in a spot of our own, but to be that much lower than the top 3 and go unbeaten in this Premier League season is pretty impressive. Now, most importantly, looking at our players. In terms of player of the matches, our top was Benoit Badiashile, who got 6 in the Premier League. Up next, Vidovic with 4, which is pretty good. Bruno Thiago also with 4. In terms of average rating, we didn't have anyone in the top 4. Liverpool had 2 players, Cabral and obviously Erling Haaland. Dusan Vlahovic up there, Moukoko, but Badiashile also our top, as he was, I think, the past 2 years as well. He is just insane. Yeremy Pino, pretty high as well, in a good spot. Mancini, really high. He was pretty high last year as well. We will miss him, but he is getting up there. He's 36 now. Jimmy Wong, surprisingly, up there, but I mean, I guess he made 14 starts in the Premier League. I do not remember half of those. Valentin Suarez also in a pretty good spot, so even if we're losing Mancini, we're still fine at center back. In terms of goals, obviously, Erling Haaland, just insane. 41 goals in the Premier League. Like, that has to be a record, right? 60! Who is Dixie Dean? 27, 28. Okay, I mean. Okay, what about, like actual recent history? Yeah, in recent history, since it's been the Premier League, the top ever goal scorer was Alan Shearer twice and Cristiano Ronaldo with 31. And Haaland scored 41. Just absolutely stupid. I mean, it's the most goals he's ever scored in a league season, and he's probably never going to score more. It's pretty difficult. He did score 32 last year, so he set the record last year, and then he just absolutely demolished it this year. He is just stupid. He is stupid good. If we had him on our team, like, I don't know how good we could possibly be. Like, that's an insane theory, because Bruno Thiago's great, but he scored twice as many goals as Bruno Thiago. And our problem was actually converting goals. He scored 41 goals in 36 appearances. He would have made a huge difference. This team would have been an absolute juggernaut. In terms of other goal scorers, no one else for us, which is, again, an issue. When Bruno Thiago is only scoring 20 in a team that goes unbeaten, you need to have a second top goal scorer who's got at least 12 or 13, and we just didn't have that this year in the league. Expected goals, 30, so he scored 11 more than expected. Bruno Thiago scored 5 more than expected, which is a little surprising. Minutes per goal, 74, just, God. He'd have the most shots. I mean, where is Bruno Thiago? Not very many shots, only 85. I mean, that is insane. 85 for him compared to 203 for Haaland. I mean, he had less shots than Erling Haaland had shots on target. Only 46 shots on target. Shots on target percentage, Kai Havertz, surprisingly, up there. He can't have had that many shots then, right? Because he, either that or he just always hit it directly at the goalkeeper. If we go to the Premier League, he had 49 shots, 30 on target. He had 30 shots on target and scored 4 goals. That conversion rate is absolutely awful. Is that him being unlucky or just bad? Can't really tell. Guilherme Santos also up there in terms of shots and target percentage. Thiago, Cerezo. Conversion rate, Bruno Thiago is pretty decent, 23%. Fernandez, 37, but he didn't play much. He's 37 years old. Shots per 90, Haaland, of course. 6 shots per game. Free kick goals, Haaland had 2 of those. The only one with more than 1. Team goals, Barraza obviously played every single game for us. Penalties, Bruno Thiago was perfect, 4 for 4. And then Vidovic is also perfect, 2 for 2. Like to see that. Assists, top was Alexis McAllister with 13, along with Jaron Green for Bristol City. Our top was Yeremy Pino with only 9, which is probably a down year for him in terms of assists. It is. He's got, well, actually more than the last 2 years, but goals were significantly down. The fewest he's ever scored in a Premier League season. Again, that's disappointing. But creatively, like, he's absurd. What else we got here? For 90, obviously, he's probably going to be pretty high on that. Anyone else going to jump in there? Vidovic. Kai Havertz, surprisingly. Mariba. He passes. Yeremy Pino, 137. Monster. Guilherme Santos. Only 15 starts, 15 sub appearances, but 74 key passes in that is pretty dang good. He might have to play more next year. Per 90, though, Pino had the most key passes by a lot. Guilherme Santos also really high. Vidovic. Mason Mount. Chances created. Yeremy Pino, 3rd with 24. Now, if we look at us defensively, starting with team conceded, which usually isn't that important, but I think it's pretty cool to see, especially because all of our players are on here, because we scored, conceded that few of goals, to see which players were in there for when most of those goals were conceded. And I mean, Franck Kessie stands out. Conceded 12 goals when Franck Kessie was playing, and he only made 16 starts. Meanwhile, the starter, Eduardo Camavinga, we conceded 4, and he made 20 starts. The drop off from Camavinga to Franck Kessie is absolutely massive. Kessie has 1 year left on his contract, and we might look to ship him on. He's got some interest, and I just don't think he's got it anymore at 35 years old. Ruggeri also pretty high on there, 13 conceded and 24 starts. Is again a better record than Kessie, but I mean, compare that to Mark Rutten, who conceded 3 and 14 starts. I think we can definitely see our starters here. Mike Fromm also did a decent job, but I'm more worried about the defenders. We look at our center backs. Cerezo, 9 and 23 starts. Mancini, 10 and 23 starts. So based on conceded, Cerezo, we conceded less. And you'd assume that Cerezo played the bigger games. So like Mancini and even guys like Kessie, they played against weaker teams and still conceded all those goals. Chile, I mean, 7 and 23, he's crazy. He needs to start basically every single game, basically, is what I'm looking at. Tackles per 90, said it before, Reece James, very good defensive season the past couple of years. Could do a little bit more going forward, but 3.87 tackles per 90. Kai Havertz in there as well. Key tackles, nobody. Key headers, I should have, Chile, 33. And I doubt we have anyone else for any of these. Conceded, I mean, 14. He played every single game, obviously, since we only conceded 14 goals. 0.37 per 90 with 26 clean sheets. Like, second most clean sheets with 15. And he made 36 starts. Saves held. I mean, not too worried about that, 62. Obviously conceded per 90. 0.89 is second best. That is absurd. Expected conceded, obviously we can't see that because it's so low. Expected goals prevented, obviously 12.85. 8 for Kelleher is second. Crazy, the number. With how few shots we had on his goal, to have 12.85 expected goals prevented is just bonkers. Saves per 90. See, he's not even on the saves per 90, and yet he's prevented that many goals. Maybe that says a lot more about how high quality the goals we're conceding, or the chances we're conceding are, which could be a thing. The expected saves per 90, not on there either. The save percentage, though, is just bonkers. 88, 80. What's his expected? 88. That is impressive. You usually don't see anyone anywhere close to their save percentage compared to the expected. Like, if we look at some of the other good goalkeepers, Onana, 86%. He was 80. If we look at some other guys like Ramsdale, that's still only 34, 79%. Expected was 86. There's usually a pretty big difference like that, and it's exactly the same for Harazo. Like, he conceded exactly as many as he should have, which is kind of bonkers. In terms of penalties, didn't have to save any because we didn't give any away. Now to finish this episode, we look to the future. We've achieved everything we can at Chelsea, so it is time for us to move on. But we've reached the end of the season, and there are no new jobs. All the jobs that were insecure are no longer insecure, and there's only 5 available in the top 5 leagues. Really, the only big one being Manchester United. And obviously, there's no reason to go there. But the fact that their job is available and the fact it's a 5-star club rating means whoever takes that job is probably going to be leaving a pretty good job as well. So as long as they don't poach a Premier League manager, we might have a good opportunity to move to based on who moves to Manchester United. Now to look through the managers, and there are currently 2 managers that Manchester United has interest in signing. And the first is Erik ten Hag, obviously the current Manchester United manager in real life. In this save, he is currently the manager of Leipzig, who finished 2nd in the Bundesliga, and Manchester United has interest in him becoming their manager. So if he leaves Leipzig, I mean, that'd definitely be a team I'd be interested in. They finished 2nd in the Bundesliga. They're the only team not named Bayern Munich to have won the Bundesliga in this save. So if I'm taking anyone that's not Bayern, Leipzig could be it. And that could be an exciting challenge, trying to overthrow Bayern Munich with a team that should have a decent number of assets, but obviously not quite the caliber of Chelsea. Might be seen as a little bit of a step down. But the other team, and the other manager is interested in, is a pretty good one as well. It is Marcelo Gallardo, the manager of Barcelona. He is also wanted by Manchester United, and obviously if he leaves there, that's the one. Barcelona is almost everyone's dream job. So if they sign Marcelo Gallardo to be their next manager, I will jump at the opportunity to take over the Barcelona job. So next episode, we'll say our final goodbye to Chelsea, and we'll be taking over our new job, whether it's with Leipzig, Barcelona, or maybe somebody different entirely. I'm looking forward to a new challenge. I really like this team. I really like a lot of these players, and I'll probably be bringing a few of them with me. But I'm excited for a new team, a new league, and a new opportunity to see if I can go unbeaten again. If you made it this far, why don't you like the video, subscribe, and click the bell. The links to all my socials and my Twitch are in the description. I really appreciate all your support. Thank you all for joining me, and I'll see you next time.